I have 8 serial killer thrillers and I'm really a little too excited to share them with you, so let's get into it. Hi, I'm Lacey. I love to read. Thanks for coming to my channel. I love to read a lot of different genres, but thrillers are definitely up there as one of my favorites. And I recently read a serial killer thriller. I was gonna say romance, but it's definitely not. And I had such a good time, which, what does that say about me? I'm not sure. I don't know what it says about me, how excited I was to film this video, but we're gonna move on because I know there are other people like me out there and they're gonna find this video. So thank you for being here. We're just gonna get into 8 serial killer thrillers that I enjoyed that I think you might if you like that. So let's get into it. The first book that I have is The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier. This book is 352 pages and I rated it 4.75 stars. I read this very recently. I thought it was really, really interesting. So it is about a serial killer named The Butcher. And The Butcher was captured by Edward Shank and he was shot in like a police shootout. And that is where The Butcher's story ended. However, 30 years later, Edward's grandson ends up dating a woman who believes that her mother was killed by The Butcher. But it was 2 years after The Butcher was killed. So she is writing a book to figure out kind of what happened to her mother, but also what happened to The Butcher. The next book I have is Dark Corners by Megan Golden. This book was 341 pages and I rated it 4.25 stars. This book is about a podcaster who does true crime podcasts and she gets called in to help the FBI with a case from a serial killer because the last person he talked to went missing. So he's in jail. They suspect that he was a serial killer in a string of murders. But when he met with this social media influencer, then she went missing. And the last person that they talked about together was the true crime podcaster. Which might not make sense. I feel like I went around in a circle, which is kind of confusing. But basically, the true crime podcaster came in because the suspected serial killer and the girl who went missing were talking about her. So it's very interesting. It's very good. And it'll take you on a roller coaster. The next book I have is The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. This book was 364 pages and I rated it 4.25 stars. This book is about a woman who is trying to find love. And as she's leaving this date, she gets attacked and this mystery man saves her. Lo and behold, she sees him again and he is just the perfect boyfriend. But at the same time as she's dating this guy, there is a serial killer who is killing the women that he's going on dates with. So it's a scary time to be dating in New York, but that's not stopping her. The next book I have is The Quiet Tenant by Clemence McCallan. Could be saying that wrong, but this book was 303 pages and I rated it 4.25 stars. That's a very common rating, I guess, with these books. But in this book, we have a serial killer and he has a captive currently in his home, but he's forced to move. And so instead of just offing her, which he's not ready for yet, he decides to introduce his captive to his daughter as they go through the move. And so this one is just honestly crazy, but it's very, very interesting. The next book I have is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This book was 342 pages and I rated it 5 stars. This is like my favorite type of thriller, which is female vigilantes. I love that. And basically, she is a vigilante. She is every year picking someone at her college campus that she works at as a professor. She's finding someone to kill because of the things that he's done. And at the same time, there is a college student who is looking for revenge for a guy who attacked her friend. And the police are investigating because they finally caught on that a man is getting murdered every year at this college. So it's honestly so good. Also, the joy I'm feeling explaining these books is like a little concerning, but I swear, I just like a really twisty book. And I feel like serial killer books very much give you a lot of layers because it's so many different events to build on top of. I swear I'm okay. And I know it doesn't sound like it, but I'm okay. And if you're watching this and enjoying this, I know you're okay too. The next book I have is Appetite for Innocence by Lucinda Berry. This book was 358 pages and I rated it 4.75 stars. This book is about 2 girls who escape a serial killer and so they're working with the police to find him, but it seems like one of them isn't telling the full truth. And I love Lucinda Berry stories. They're very wild, but they take you for a wild ride, which is always enjoyable. The next book I have is 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. This book was 356 pages and I rated it 4.5 stars. So this book is about how there is a jury convened for a serial killer's trial. However, the serial killer might actually be on the jury. So it's crazy. And it's really fun if you like more of like the law side of it and the trial versus before they get caught. And then the last one I have is honestly so good. It reminded me of a Criminal Minds episode. I literally felt like I was watching an episode of Criminal Minds. It was so good. So this book is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This book is 674 pages, so it's a little long for the thrillers, but I rated it 5 stars. It was so good. And it's basically about two sisters who come back together when another woman goes missing, and it kind of reminds them similar to what happened with their sister who disappeared over 20 years ago. It's so good. It is so twisty and it's so intense and it's so wild, but it's so good. And I still think about it, and I read it so long ago. But those are all the books I have for you today. I now think that I need to read more serial killer thriller books. So please leave any in the comments if you read any, because I am so down to read more. And I was recommended The Butcher by one of my subscribers. And thank you so much, because I love that book. I think that was such a good book to read. So I really appreciate that. And I always appreciate your recommendations, and I really do take them to heart, and I put them on my TBR. So thank you very much for your comments. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel and watching my video. I really appreciate you being here, and I really hope that the books that you read bring you joy.